things can speak to us and sound like God.
Absolutely.
And you're like, wait, is that my mind? Is that the enemy? Or is that what God's saying about me? And I think that is when you have to go to scriptures and read about what God says about you. And if it is not something that God says about you, then it is not his voice. And that's how we can determine what is best for us.
Absolutely. And I think that guy who was pursuing her should have sensed that and stopped.
Right.
Like, obviously, she's having a hard time with this. Let me stop pursuing her. Steve actually had to do that for a few years while I was in Bible college. And just take a step back and be like, you know what? I can live without that person. If she doesn't want to marry me, that's fine. Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to pursue my relationship with the Lord. And that's what Steve did with me, because for a time we were apart. And I made that choice to step in a relationship with him in a marriage covenant. And he should have done that with her. Like, wait for her to say yes and make that choice and not pressure her.
No.
So it made me really mad. It still makes me mad to this day. So if that's you right now, get out of that relationship.
Yeah,
if you feel pressured to be there, get out.
Never, ever.
Absolutely.
You should never feel pressured or manipulated in any way. Like marriage and dating and those things, like, you should feel sure and confident and knowing who you are and that person is. And yes, there are going to be messy times, but there are going to be beautiful times. And you should feel confident in those decisions that you make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have to be around Steve 24/7 either to feel value, like cling to him all the time.
No.
Like, I can be my own person and he gives me freedom and I can breathe and I can have friends and podcasts.
Yes. And, spend time with me and write music and make music.
Exactly. And someone who's not going to be jealous over your career or your friends or why are you doing this and why are you doing that and you don't love me and forget it.
I know.
Forget it. I can't stand it.
Forget about it.
We can go to other topics too. Like, does that person want children? Because children's a big thing.
When Brock and I first got married, we were like, we're not having kids.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, both of us. We didn't want to have kids. Like,
so what
we
happened?
Had 2 kids. And then, like, years later, so my mom, and to this day, my mom makes fun for it. After we got married, she's like, I bet you $1,000 that you're going to want to have a kid. Mm. And he's like, there's no way. Like, we're definitely not having kids. Like, there's no way. And, like, a couple of years later, Brock was like, like, real casual. Well, I think, like, maybe... like, we should have a kid. Like, what do you think? And I was like, excuse me? I was, like, so shocked by it. But it felt like that was the right thing for us, even though we both were like, no, we're not having kids. But we were on the same page both ways. Like, we were on the same page when we didn't want to have kids, and then we were on the same page when we did.
Oh, that's
and
so
to this
funny.
day, my mom's like, you owe me $1,000. Where's my $1,000? Like, all the time. So, yeah, we have Harper Quinn.
Oh, and she's so cute.
And she's 6, living her best life.
Living her best life
She
now.
is.
Steve and I were the same way with our second child, and every time we talk about it, we didn't really talk about it. I always ask him, like, hey, do you want another kid? He's like, yeah, I think about it. And I was like, yeah, I think about it too.
And then God was like,
well, stop thinking. Stop thinking and start doing.
Like, hold up. Just give me a little bit because I got a surprise for you.
Surprise!
Yes!
And surprises are great when you're married.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I had to say.
I think that our encouragement is, marriage is not easy, but it's great. And there's so many good things about marriage and being, with the person that you're supposed to be with and living life together and having that support. And we just want you guys to be able to do those things. And it's, there are going to be rocky places and there are going to be mistakes. I've made my fair share of mistakes, which maybe we'll discuss in part 2.
Yeah.
And decisions that weren't healthy for me. And yet God created something beautiful out of my life, just me personally and in my relationships. And find your worth. Your worth only exists in God. And God wants what's best for you. And again, to really listen to what he has to say about you and what he has to say for who you're supposed to be with and your partner. And, just stay in touch with him and he'll lead you there.
And he will. He'll totally get there. I mean, you might make mistakes along the way. Both Julie and I have. And you eventually find your way and you learn to listen to God's voice and get to know who he is through the word and through prayer and through having other Christian girlfriends or guy friends, that's really
Have
important
people
too.
that can speak life into you.
Yeah.
People that you can really be honest with and be like, hey, here's what's going on. Like, I wish that there was, in that time, someone that could have spoke into that girl's life that felt so confused and felt so unsure about her marriage, that she had a mentor or a friend that could really sit down with her and be honest. Like, we need those relationships. Like, I have probably three solid friendships that I know I can speak honestly to, and I know that will speak honestly back to me, and I can just be vulnerable and unapologetically myself, and that those people will hear me and really speak wisdom into my life. And those people, you need those people, whether it's a mentor from church, whether it's a mentor from school, whether it's a friend, somebody that you can really be raw and vulnerable with, that they can also be with you, and that you have that relationship where you can kind of spur each other on. So I encourage you to find those people.
Absolutely. I think that's great ending advice.
Yeah.
But I think, since we're talking about marriage, we should bring the guys on.
We should bring the guys on.
The podcast.
The guys' podcast.
The beard.
We'll bring the girls on. I need a nap.
Me too.
I do want to say that there are two releases that I think are really good song-wise, since we haven't discussed songs in a while.
Please.
Rita Springer released a song midnight on Friday the 13th called Midnight. And the song is amazing. Please listen to it. It's a single that she just released. It's so good. The bridge is like such an incredible declaration that you can sing over your life. And I think it's incredibly timely, and that God is always working, because this song we really need right now as a nation, and I think it's really wonderful. And also Cody Carnes released a full-length album, and there's not one song that I wouldn't listen to 50 times over and over. It's so good.
He's got a great voice.
Run to the Father, that I'm sure everybody has heard. Just like his lyrics, I mean, whew, can you imagine like him and Kara Jobe, like the way that they write music? I just want to be like a fly on a wall, just see how that plays out.
I know.
Just so much wisdom that comes from like one song. They just wrote a song called The Blessing, and it is not recorded yet, but again, I would go, you can't listen to it except for YouTube. So you have to go on YouTube to watch the video of it. They sang it at Elevation, and with Elevation Worship, and guys, it's so good that Elevation Worship decided not to release their album yet so that they could record it and put it on there.
Wow, how cool is that?
So listen to those.
I saw it once and I had it stuck in my head.
Yeah. So listen to those. Right now I don't want to go back and talk about, the virus, but
I actually was able to forget about the virus.
While we are home, if we are home, and when we are home, or in your car or driving, or if you're at work and you're feeling whatever kind of way, like, I would encourage you to listen to those things, because there's such good healing in worship, and there's a unity in worship, and not to just sit there and listen to it, but sing out loud worship, because there's freedom there. And, even if you can't sing, it doesn't matter, because everything sounds beautiful to God. So just sing and pray and worship through it. And I'm doing the same thing for myself. And it's a surrender situation for me personally. Like, I'm like, okay, God, I'm not going to think about this. And then 5 minutes later, I think about it. I'm like, okay, God, I'm not going to think about this.
Me too.
But I know that God has a purpose, and I know that he has a plan. And so I have to trust in that.
Yeah, Julie was like, maybe we should talk about it on the podcast and how we can stay calm. And I'm not making light of her text message, but I was like, I seriously just couldn't do it anymore.
I understand.
I was like, I can't.
I was just like, should we? Like, do we need to?
Mm-hmm.
And that's like where my mind was. But I thought we needed to talk about something else too.
Yeah. I was like, oh, please, anything. I mean, I had to actually delete my Facebook app, because I was like, I can't. Every single post.
I moved it and stopped my notifications.
Good.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, one person was like, stay calm, and the other person's like, panic, stay calm, panic. And it was just, I can't deal with it anymore.
So for you guys, deep breaths, worship music, listen to the More of the Gals podcast if you're not caught up, and take some time to be with your family and enjoy like the little things that we take for granted every day.
Yes, and wash your hands.
Wash your hands. Hey, thanks for the chat.
Thanks for the chat.
Hey, this is Des from the Gals Podcast, and the Gals Podcast is a listener-supported program brought to you by the I Am Media Group. Your support can make a difference in the lives of those who hear our podcast all over the world. Visit iammediagroup.org/donate to give your safe and secure tax-deductible donation. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast, and we hope you can join us for our next chat.